People look at Formula One drivers and see something close to impossible. Human beings making decisions at speeds where most of us can barely process what's happening on a screen. The car is vibrating, the cockpit is boiling, the steering wheel is packed with buttons, and the margin for error is thinner than a sheet of paper. And yet, lap after lap, they perform with a kind of consistency that feels unreal, like they're machines. But they're not machines. Under the helmet is a mind fighting a battle most people never see. The battle against pressure, fear, doubt, distraction, and the brutal voice that says, one mistake and everything is over. The secret isn't just talent, it's psychology. Because at the top level of racing, the difference between a champion and everyone else is often the ability to stay mentally stable while the entire world is trying to knock you off balance. To drive an F1 car, you don't just need courage. You need a very specific relationship with pressure. Pressure isn't a side effect in Formula One. It's the environment. The driver carries a country on their shoulders, a team's future on their back, and a sponsor's expectations on their chest. Every weekend becomes a test of identity. Are you still good enough? Are you still fast? Are you still worth it? And here's the truth that makes this sport so psychologically brutal. Human beings can only absorb so much stress before it starts to bend decision-making. Under normal circumstances, stress makes people hesitate, overthink, or rush. In F1, hesitation means losing a tenth. Overthinking means missing an apex. Rushing means touching a curb at the wrong angle and spinning into the wall. That's why mental preparation isn't a nice bonus in Formula One. It's a survival tool. The best drivers are not just trained to be fast. They are trained to remain clear, even when their heart is pounding like a drum inside their chest. And the world rarely sees how many failures live behind every success. For every legendary highlight clip, there are years of repetition that no one applauds. Hours in the simulator, hours reviewing onboard footage, hours learning how their brain behaves when everything is on the line. The greatest drivers don't rise smoothly. They rise through setbacks, races thrown away by one mistake, qualifying laps ruined by one lockup, championships lost by the smallest margin imaginable. That's what creates the psychological backbone of a champion, the ability to rebound again and again without losing belief. Because belief is not just motivational. In Formula One, belief is functional. If you don't genuinely believe you belong at the top, the car will expose you. Doubt changes how you brake. Doubt changes how you commit. Doubt changes how you overtake. And at 200 miles per hour, even a tiny hesitation becomes a disaster. What separates elite drivers is something psychologists often call a growth mindset. The best in the world are not satisfied with being good. They are almost allergic to it. They look at a strong performance and ask, what could have been better? They treat mistakes not as proof of weakness, but as data. Painful data, sometimes humiliating data, but still useful. That mindset makes them dangerous because it keeps them improving while others stagnate. It also changes how they interpret pressure. Instead of seeing pressure as a threat, they learn to see it as a signal. This matters. This is what we trained for. They still feel nerves. They still feel fear. They just don't let it decide the outcome. And that is a learned skill, built through repetition and intentional psychological work. Now let's talk about confidence. Because in Formula One, confidence isn't arrogance. It's fuel. A driver has to enter a race weekend believing they can beat the best drivers on the planet. And that belief has to hold even when the car feels unstable, even when the track is changing, even when the radio is full of instructions, even when the headlines are waiting to tear them apart. Confidence isn't built from wishing, it's built from evidence. The strongest kind of confidence comes from experience. I've done this before. Every lap in practice, every session in the simulator, every visualization run-through creates a mental library the driver can access under stress. And the more complete that library is, the faster the driver can make decisions without panic. In Formula One, that's everything, because the track doesn't pause while you think. One of the greatest examples of confidence built through deliberate discomfort is Ayrton Senna. Senna didn't become legendary in the rain by accident. He chased the thing that made others uncomfortable and turned it into a weapon. Wet conditions punish hesitation. They punish fear. They punish anyone who tries to drive safely instead of decisively. Senna's advantage wasn't simply skill, it was mental commitment. He trained his brain to accept uncertainty, to read grip levels faster, to stay calm while the car moved beneath him. And that speaks to one of the most important psychological traits of elite drivers. They become comfortable being uncomfortable. Not in a motivational poster way, but in a literal way. They accept the claustrophobic cockpit, the heat, the physical strain, the awkwardness, the pain. And beyond that, they accept the mental discomfort of knowing they have one lap, one chance, one moment to deliver. In qualifying, you can do everything right all weekend and still lose it in one corner. That is not a normal workplace environment. That is psychological warfare. But here's a myth that needs to die. The myth that F1 drivers do it alone. The driver is the only person inside the car, yes. But behind that driver is a support network built like a machine. Engineers, strategists, performance coaches, analysts, mechanics, and yes, often sports psychologists. The driver is constantly receiving information, data about tires, temperatures, balance, energy deployment, weather, traffic, rivals. The problem is, the human brain cannot focus on 20 things at once. It can only hold a small number of priorities in clear focus. So one of the biggest mental skills in F1 is filtering, choosing the 1, 2, maybe 3 key focuses that matter most right now, and letting everything else fade into the background. The driver who tries to hold every detail in mind becomes overloaded. The driver who filters intelligently stays sharp. That's why the relationship between a driver and their race engineer can be so important. The engineer becomes a guide for attention. They help keep the driver focused on what actually matters in that moment. A brake bias adjustment, a differential change, tire management, a plan for the next few laps. A strong driver-engineer partnership reduces mental clutter. It prevents the driver from drowning in options and second-guessing. And that matters because mental energy is not infinite. Drivers burn mental energy constantly through a race weekend. Briefings, debriefs, media obligations, sponsor demands, technical reviews. By the time Sunday arrives, they're not just physically tired, they're cognitively tired. The champions find a way to conserve mental energy for when it counts. One of the most powerful tools drivers use to prepare is visualization. It sounds simple, but it's deceptively advanced. Visualization isn't daydreaming. It's a structured mental rehearsal of scenarios. The start, the first corner, a safety car, an unexpected overtake attempt, a tire drop-off, a rival dive bombing down the inside. The brain doesn't perfectly separate real experience from vividly imagined experience. When a driver visualizes correctly, sensations, timing, decision points, they are training neural pathways. They're building familiarity before reality arrives. That's why, during a race, elite drivers can react in ways that look instinctive. It feels like magic to the viewer. But it's often the result of rehearsing possibilities so thoroughly that the moment feels recognized. I've been here before, even if I haven't. And this is where preparation becomes almost cinematic. The final hour before the race. The closer it gets to lights out, the more the world narrows. The driver's job is to move into an ideal performance state, a mental zone where distractions lose power. That state looks different for different people. Some need intensity, energy, and adrenaline. Others need calm, quiet, and controlled breathing. The key is not copying someone else's vibe. The key is knowing what works for you and building a repeatable process that gets you there. And that process matters because Formula One is full of uncontrollable variables. Weather, mechanical failures, strategy chaos, rivals making unpredictable moves. The driver can't control all that, but they can control how they enter the arena. This is why routines are so sacred in Formula One. Routines are not superstition, they are psychological anchors. In a world full of uncertainty, routines create a sense of stability. The same warm-up, the same breathing pattern, the same preparation timeline, the same mental check-in with the engineer, it becomes a pathway into focus. And when the stakes rise, routines become even more important. They keep the driver from spiraling into what-if thinking. They keep the driver from obsessing over consequences. The routine says, we've done this before. This is familiar. This is controllable. And that's the real function of a routine. It protects the mind from chaos. Superstitions, on the other hand, are different. Superstitions are attempts to feel control in a situation where control is limited, like believing a certain sock or a specific ritual brings luck. Routines are chosen because they reliably improve performance state. That's a critical difference. The most elite drivers may have little quirks, sure, but what defines them is not superstition. It's disciplined preparation. It's learning how to switch into focus on command. And nothing tests the mind like a championship-deciding race. Imagine arriving at the final Grand Prix with a points lead, knowing that one bad start could destroy an entire season. This is where the psychological game becomes brutal. Under that pressure, the mind starts racing ahead. What if I lose places? What if the other guy gets a great start? What if I'm boxed in? What if I make a mistake? The best drivers recognize that spiral, and they shut it down. They narrow focus to the most immediate controllable action. Sometimes it's as simple as this: win the start. Not because the rest of the race doesn't matter, but because the brain performs best when it has a clear target. Too many targets create noise. One target creates power. That is what it really takes mentally to drive a Formula One car. It takes belief strong enough to survive public pressure. It takes discipline strong enough to outlast fear. It takes preparation so deep that instinct becomes trained behavior. It takes the ability to focus on the right thing at the right time while everything else screams for attention. And above all, it takes the ability to perform in discomfort, physical discomfort in the cockpit, mental discomfort in decision-making, emotional discomfort when the outcome threatens your identity. Because when the lights go out, none of the noise matters. Not the headlines, not the rumors, not the critics, not the expectations. In that moment, the world collapses into something brutally simple: a car, a track, and a mind trying to stay sharp at the edge of human ability. And the drivers who become legends aren't the ones who never feel pressure. They're the ones who learn to carry it, lap after lap, without letting it control the wheel.